The city sleeps, a canvas of concrete and glass beneath a bruised indigo sky. But in the deep quiet of night, something magical stirs. A beam of light, ethereal and vibrant, dances across a forgotten alley wall, painting ephemeral stories of wonder. A ghost artist whispered local legends, leaving beauty in shadows. Leo Maxwell, a man haunted by his own past, pushes a cleaning cart through the sterile halls of the prestigious Thorne Gallery, his calloused hands betraying no hint of the artistic fire that once burned within him. He sees the framed art, the soaring prices, the gilded cage of success, and thinks only of his mute 10-year-old daughter, Maya, unaware that her silent dreams are about to ignite a revolution in the very art world he cleans. A fine, cool drizzle had just ceased, leaving the alley's brick walls glistening under the lone, sputtering street lamp. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, a city's forgotten corners breathing. Maya, small for her 10 years, her dark hair often escaping its braid, knelt on the gritty asphalt, her tiny fingers moving with a focused intensity beyond her age. Before her, an old toy telescope, jury-rigged with wires and a small LED bulb, sat precariously balanced on a stack of discarded crates. It hummed softly, a faint mechanical heartbeat. A worn tablet, its screen illuminated, was connected by a tangle of makeshift cables, and as Maya's nimble fingers danced across its surface, a beam of light burst forth from the telescope's lens. It landed on the opposing wall, a damp canvas of brick and peeling paint, and there a creature began to form. First, a shimmering outline, then vibrant scales of cerulean and amethyst, vast luminous wings unfurling against the grimy backdrop. It was a fantastical dragon, soaring over a silent, starry cityscape born of pixels and light, ephemeral and breathtaking. Maya's lips were pressed into a thin line of concentration, her brow furrowed in fierce focus, but her wide, curious eyes held a joyful glint that spoke of profound inner freedom. This was her secret world, a vibrant escape from the silence that so often isolated her, a connection to the city's hidden pulse, transforming its forgotten spaces with the silent roar of light. Miles away, within the cool, pristine mausoleum of the Thorne Gallery, the silence was of a different kind, hushed, reverent, almost suffocating. Gleaming marble floors reflected the sterile glow of spotlights that lovingly illuminated priceless, often abstract, works of art. It was just before dawn, that lonely hour when the city exhales its last sleepy breath before the day's clamor begins. Leo Maxwell, 38, moved through the cavernous main hall, pushing his cleaning cart with methodical, almost invisible efficiency. His powerful frame, once honed by a different kind of disciplined movement, now carried the subtle slump of quiet weariness. His hands, calloused and rough, slid over the polished surfaces, removing the day's forgotten dust. He paused before a massive, stark modern sculpture, its cold, geometric angles cutting through the space, and meticulously cleaned around its base. His gaze drifted to a canvas nearby, a large piece with bold, confident strokes that seemed to pulse with a raw, untamed energy. It was a style that stirred a deep, suppressed ache within him, a resonance that echoed a past he had painstakingly buried. He was proud of the stability he provided for Maya, the quiet sanctuary they had built, but a strong current of loss and regret flowed beneath his stoic exterior. His hands, once tools of explosive creation, now only served to polish and maintain, a poignant sacrifice. Morning light, thin and watery, filtered through the window of their small, cluttered apartment, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. The scent of brewing coffee mingled with the faint aroma of Maya's art supplies, stacks of paper, tubs of colored pencils, and a well-loved, dog-eared ASL dictionary. Leo, having shed his cleaning uniform for worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, sat on the edge of Maya's bed, gently rousing her. "Good morning, little artist," he signed, his large hands moving with a tenderness that belied their rough exterior. Maya blinked, pushing tangled hair from her face, then her fingers flew in response, animated with the lingering energy of the night. "Saw a shooting star, Daddy," she signed, her eyes wide. "Made a wish." Leo chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. "A wish for what?" Maya giggled, a silent, joyful sound, and gave a playful shrug, clutching her secret close. She then pulled out her tablet, its battery low, and showed him a quick, glowing image from her night's work, a glimpse of the fantastical creature, its luminous wings beating against the digital sky. Leo's smile tightened slightly, a flicker of concern crossing his face, a familiar echo of a past he had painstakingly buried. He was fiercely protective of her joy, her vibrant artistic spirit, seeing so much of her mother in her. The secret art, while beautiful, made him uneasy, reminding him of his own past as Ghost Hand, a pseudonym he had abandoned after a tragedy that shattered their world. He cherished these quiet mornings, these moments of shared, silent intimacy, acutely aware of their fleeting nature in a world that seldom understood Maya's quiet brilliance. The same alleyway, now bathed in the cool, gray-blue light of a brisk autumn dawn, felt different. The ephemeral dragon had almost completely faded, leaving only a ghostly shimmer on the damp brick. Clara Vance, in her mid-30s, sharp and intelligent, her sleek dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, pounded the pavement on her morning run. Dressed in understated but stylish activewear, she moved with the focused energy of someone constantly pushing boundaries. She rounded the corner of the alley and stopped dead, her breath hitched. There, on the wall, was the faint, otherworldly glow of what remained of Maya's digital art. Her eyes, usually analytical, widened with a spark of pure, unadulterated excitement. Pulling out her phone, she began taking rapid-fire photos, zooming in, panning out, muttering under her breath. Unbelievable. Ephemeral digital projection. No signature, no trace. Pure, raw brilliance. She felt an exhilarating sense of discovery, a jolt of recognition. This ghost art, as some were already calling it on local blogs, represented everything she believed art should be: authentic, accessible, transformative, and utterly free from the commercial constraints of the gallery world she now inhabited, a world she often found herself at odds with. She knew, with a certainty that hummed in her veins, that this was more than just a fleeting image. It was a potential revolution. Later that morning, in the Thorne Gallery's director's office, Clara's idealism clashed with the polished cynicism of Sterling Thorne. The room, a monument to corporate art, with its gleaming polished wood, deliberately abstract art, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the indifferent city, felt like a battleground. Thorne, impeccably dressed in a custom-tailored suit, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, listened with an unnervingly calm demeanor as Clara presented her findings to him and a small board of directors. Her photos of the ghost artist's work, now digitally enhanced to capture their ethereal glow, flashed across a large screen. "This isn't just graffiti, Mr. Thorne," Clara argued, her voice infused with passion. "It's a movement, a silent commentary on urban decay and renewal. It's pure, untainted art, and it's captivating the city's imagination." Thorne, his lips curving into a dismissive smile, steepled his fingers. "Captivating is one thing, Miss Vance. Profitable is another. This ghost artist has no name, no gallery representation. We don't exhibit unknowns, unless we make them known. Find this artist, acquire their rights, and we'll talk about movements." He emphasized the word acquire with a subtle, chilling precision. Clara felt a familiar knot of frustration tighten in her stomach. Thorne saw only dollar signs and potential intellectual property, viewing the artist as a mere commodity to be bought and sold. Her own idealistic vision of art's transformative power felt naive in the face of his blatant avarice. She was determined to protect the integrity of the art, even if she had to fight the very institution she worked for. In a bustling city park, bathed in the gentle warmth of an afternoon sun, Maya sat on a bench, her small frame almost lost amidst the lunchtime crowd. Children laughed as they chased pigeons, vendors hawked hot dogs, and the rhythmic thrum of city life pulsed around her. Her tablet, its screen dimmed, and her homemade projector lay in her lap. She was watching, absorbed, as groups of teenagers scrolled through their phones, pointing and chattering excitedly. They were looking at Clara Vance's photos of her art, now circulating widely on social media, sparking fervent debates about its meaning and creator. A wistful smile touched Maya's lips, a yearning in her eyes that transcended the screen. She pulled out her own small sketchpad and, with a soft charcoal pencil, began to draw a self-portrait. But instead of her own small face, she sketched the fantastical creature, luminous and free, projected onto an imaginary wall, its wings reaching towards the stars. It was a reflection of her innermost desire, a silent cry to be recognized, to be seen. A passing teenager, engrossed in a discussion with a friend about the ghost art, glanced at Maya's tablet, lingering on the glowing image she'd created. "Whoa!" the teen exclaimed. "Is that the ghost art? Amazing, right? Maya's face lit up, and she nodded enthusiastically, a silent wave of pride washing over her. But then, a flicker of fear, a primal instinct to protect her secret, made her quickly hide her tablet, the fleeting joy replaced by a familiar apprehension. Later that evening, in the comforting clutter of their apartment, Leo was hunched over the kitchen sink, his hands deftly working with a wrench to fix a leaking faucet. The rhythmic drip-drip had been driving him crazy all morning. Maya, tablet in hand, approached him hesitantly. She held up the device, displaying Clara's social media post about the ghost art, the accompanying article full of speculation about the anonymous creator. Her fingers moved rapidly, forming the ASL signs for asterisk. Is it good? Really good? Asterisk. Leo looked at the screen, then at Maya, his gaze shadowed by a memory that still held the power to wound. He remembered the thrill, the intoxicating rush of recognition, but also the crushing pressure that came with it. Yes, Maya, he signed slowly, his large hands careful. Very good, beautiful. Maya's eyes, usually so guarded, now shone with a hopeful question. Asterisk. What if everyone knew who made it? Asterisk. Leo's hands froze on the faucet, his posture stiffening. He signed back, his movements agitated, a raw edge to his voice. Some art is better kept secret. It protects the magic. He didn't elaborate, couldn't. He saw the budding hope in her eyes, the burgeoning desire for recognition, and felt a profound fear for her safety. He knew the art world, the way it could consume and exploit, the way it had, in his mind, contributed to the painful loss of Maya's mother. He associated public art with the very pressures that had consumed her. He was desperate to shield Maya from that pain, from the same fate. Maya, in turn, felt a profound conflict. She trusted her father implicitly, but she didn't fully understand his fear, only the crushing weight of his unspoken command. The desire to share her art, to let her voice be heard, swelled within her, clashing painfully with her father's desperate need to keep her safe. The accidental encounter happened in the sterile grandeur of the Thorne Gallery, just as dawn was breaking. Clara Vance, having arrived early to review a new acquisition, rounded a corner just as Leo was finishing polishing a marble pedestal. In her haste, she bumped into his cleaning cart, sending a small framed photo tumbling from his pocket onto the gleaming floor. "Sorry," Clara exclaimed, bending down to retrieve it. As her fingers closed around the frame, she noticed a distinctive geometric pattern on the back. A small, hand-painted butterfly, intricate and vibrant. It was strikingly similar to a recurring motif she'd observed in the ghost art photos. She looked from the photo of the bright-eyed girl to Leo, her expression a mix of apology, suspicion, and burgeoning curiosity. "Is this your daughter?" she asked, a gentle probing in her voice. Leo's face, usually carefully neutral, tightened almost imperceptibly. "Yes," he replied, his voice blunt, guarded. Clara, still holding the photo, turned it over again, her gaze lingering on the butterfly. "She's very talented. Did she paint this?" Leo snatched the photo back, his fingers closing around it almost protectively. "It's just a child's drawing," he stated, dismissing her interest. Clara offered a small, knowing smile. "Sometimes," she mused, "children's drawings are the most honest art." She tucked the observation away, a tiny but significant clue in her hunt for the elusive artist. Leo, however, felt a surge of anxiety. She was too close, too perceptive. He disliked the easy judgment he perceived from her, a person of privilege in this gilded cage, an art world insider who couldn't possibly understand his world. Later that morning, in a bustling coffee shop near the gallery, Clara was hunched over her tablet, reviewing her notes and photos of the ghost art. The city thrummed around her, a symphony of espresso machines and hushed conversations. Dr. Ilara Khan, a kind but sharp art historian and a trusted colleague, slid into the opposite seat, a look of concern on her face. "Thorne is a shark, Clara," Ilara said, stirring her coffee. "He'll chew up this ghost artist and spit out the bones. This kind of authentic, community-driven art thrives outside the gallery system, not within it," Clara sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I know, Ilara. But if I can convince him to support a show that truly respects the artist's vision, we could bring this art to a wider audience, create something truly meaningful. It could also give the artist a platform, a real opportunity." Ilara's expression remained grim. "Or it could destroy their anonymity and commercialize their soul." Be careful what you wish for, Clara. I've seen it happen too many times. Clara felt the tension between her idealism and the harsh realities of the art market. She was desperate to elevate this art, but deeply feared its exploitation. The pressure mounted. In his director's office, Thorne paced, a predator scenting blood. The city council was buzzing, the media was captivated, and corporations were already sniffing around for tie-ins. The ghost art phenomenon was exploding. Thorne, his voice deceptively calm, tasked Clara with an ultimatum. Find the artist within a week, or he'd hire his own private investigators, cutting her out entirely. He underscored the immense financial potential with chilling clarity. The buzz is immense, Miss Vance. Find this artist within 7 days, or I'll find them myself, and you'll be on the outside looking in. Clara's jaw tightened. And if the artist wants to remain anonymous, if they refuse to commercialize their work? Thorne's cold smile sent a shiver down her spine. Everyone has a price, Miss Vance, and if they don't, we can always persuade them. Clara felt a desperate need to protect the unknown artist, knowing Thorne would stop at nothing to claim his prize. Unaware of the storm brewing, Maya continued her nocturnal artistry. In a dilapidated, abandoned warehouse on the city's outskirts, its walls covered in fading, spray-painted graffiti, she was completely absorbed in her creation. The space felt like a forgotten sanctuary. She projected a new piece onto a massive brick wall, a vibrant, intricate mural of interconnected butterflies, swirling like a galaxy, each one alive with pulsating light. Her fingers moved with fluid grace across her tablet, lost in the silent language of her art. What she didn't know was that a tiny, almost invisible security camera, recently installed by Thorne's private investigators, was now meticulously capturing her image, a silent, unblinking eye in the darkness. Later that night, back in the quiet of their apartment, the fragile piece shattered. Leo discovered Maya's new, detailed digital sketch on her tablet, the complex butterfly motif she'd never shown him, a powerful evolution of her earlier work. He saw in it the echo of his own past, elements of his ghost hand style, confirming his deepest fear. Maya's art was not just gaining widespread attention, it was becoming Times Hers asterisk. Just then, a local news report flickered across the small TV screen. Clara Vance's face appeared, her voice filled with enthusiasm as she spoke about the ghost artist and the growing citywide interest. The reporter mentioned the Thorne Gallery's aggressive hunt, and Leo's stomach plummeted. He slammed the tablet down. "Maya," he signed, his movements agitated, almost violent. "You cannot do this. It is dangerous. You must stop." Maya, startled, stared at her father, tears welling in her eyes. Asterisk. "But Daddy, everyone loves it. It's like my voice, finally." Asterisk. Her fingers trembled, forming the desperate plea. Leo's response was immediate, raw with fear. "Your voice is here, with me. This is not safe." He could feel the past rising up, choking him, the ghost of her mother whispering warnings. Maya, heartbroken and confused, her unspoken words trapped in her throat, could only stare at her father's anguished face. He was suffocating her, silencing the one thing that gave her joy. With a sob she couldn't utter, she bolted from the apartment, leaving Leo to stare at the door, the news report still droning on, confirming his worst nightmare. The world tilted sideways. In the pristine director's office, Thorne, a smug victor, projected the grainy surveillance footage onto the large screen. It was undeniable, a clear image of Maya, small and focused, bathed in the ethereal glow of her own creation. "Found our ghost artist, Miss Vance," Thorne announced, his voice oozing with triumph. "A little girl, mute since childhood. Quite the story, wouldn't you agree? And her father, a cleaner here at the gallery, once a street artist himself, I hear. How poetic." Clara felt a cold dread seep into her bones. Thorne knew. He knew everything. "We'll market it as a rags to riches," silenced voice found narrative. "It'll be a goldmine." He paused, his gaze fixing on Clara, the implicit threat hanging heavy in the air. "I'll make her famous, and rich, and you, Miss Vance, will curate the biggest show of your career. Or you're out, and so is our cleaner friend." Clara's face was pale with horror. "You can't, you'll destroy her. She's a child." She felt sick, the full extent of Thorne's predatory greed laid bare. Later that same night, in the quiet, echoing storage room of the Thorne Gallery, Leo was scrubbing a stubborn stain from a marble plinth, his movements jerky and fueled by despair. He had searched everywhere for Maya, his frantic calls to her few friends unanswered, the familiar spots where she used to draw now empty. He was haunted by the image of her running away, by his own harsh words, by the growing dread in his gut. He was failing her. He felt the cold touch of a hand on his shoulder and whirled around to see Clara, her face grim, her eyes holding a deep sorrow. Without a word, she held up her phone, playing the surveillance footage Thorne had shown her. Leo watched, numb, as Maya's small figure, illuminated by her own art, flickered across the screen. His world collapsed. Thorne knew. Maya was exposed. "Thorne knows, Leo," Clara said, her voice soft but urgent. "He has footage. He's going to exploit Maya." Leo felt a surge of white-hot rage, blinding him. He saw Clara not as an ally, but as another face of the system that had consumed his wife, that was now coming for his daughter. "And you're helping him, aren't you?" he spat, his voice raw with fury. "Another curator, another art world shark. You people always consume, always destroy what's real." Clara recoiled, hurt, but her eyes held a fierce resolve. "No, I want to protect her. I want to help you both. I believe in her art, not in what Thorne wants to make of it." But Leo, consumed by his own past trauma, couldn't hear her. "I don't believe you," he cried, his voice breaking. "I've seen this before. It killed her mother." He turned away, his shoulders shaking, the weight of his past and his present crushing him. Clara watched him, her heart aching for his pain, but her resolve hardening. He wouldn't believe her words now, but she would prove her intent. She would protect Maya, with or without him. She had to. Leo ran. He ran through the labyrinthine streets, a frantic, desperate blur against the indifferent glow of the city lights, the echo of his own furious words, and Clara's pained expression burning in his mind. He checked Maya's usual spots, the forgotten corners where they used to share silent secrets, the old haunts where his own ghost hand art had once briefly illuminated the night. Each empty alley, each desolate wall, deepened the chilling sense of déjà vu, the terrifying return of a past he had fought so hard to escape. Posters of Maya's luminous creations, now tainted with Thorne's branding, a crude, hastily added watermark, seemed to mock him from every lamppost, every bus shelter. The search was relentless, fueled by an agonizing mixture of guilt and gut-wrenching fear. He muttered Maya's name, a raw, rasping whisper, his voice hoarse from unspoken terror. "Maya, please, where are you?" The urban landscape, a harsh concrete canvas, mirrored his internal turmoil, each dark shadow a reflection of his own despair. He stumbled onto a park bench, his legs giving out beneath him, his face buried in his hands. The cold night air offered no solace, only the chilling reminder of his failure. A familiar presence settled beside him, a quiet warmth in the swirling vortex of his fear. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and raw, to see Clara Vance. She didn't offer pity, only a quiet, steady resolve. "Thorne wants to unmask Maya," she began, her voice low and firm, cutting through his despair. "But what if we unmask the original ghost hand first? Your art, your legacy. It would take the pressure off Maya, establish a different kind of ghost artist movement, and challenge Thorne's commercialization directly." Leo stared at her, the idea blooming, fragile, and terrifying, in the arid landscape of his despair. "My art, that's a lifetime ago," he rasped, the words heavy with the dust of forgotten dreams. Clara shook her head, her eyes burning with conviction. "No, it's a foundation. It's the story of integrity versus greed. You can protect her, Leo, not by hiding, but by stepping into the light with her, on your own terms. Your art still has power, Leo, more than you know." The desperation to find Maya, to somehow shield her from the fate he feared, slowly began to crack his hardened resolve. He looked at Clara, truly looked at her, and saw not a threat, but a fierce, unwavering ally. A flicker of hope, hesitant but persistent, began to glow. The Thorne Gallery stood silent, a mausoleum of commerce and ambition, waiting for its grand, cynical announcement. Inside, in the main hall, Leo and Clara worked, a strange, tense partnership, preparing for their counterstrike. Leo, his hands trembling slightly, picked up a large charcoal stick. For the first time in over a decade, he stood before a blank canvas, its pristine surface a daunting challenge. His movements were rusty at first, hesitant, but then a dormant fire ignited. Powerful strokes, raw and unrefined, began to emerge, forming outlines of figures, abstract shapes that hummed with suppressed emotion. It was his old style, the signature of the ghost hand, but infused with a new, fierce determination. Clara, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of controlled energy. She coordinated with Dr. Khan, the sympathetic art historian, and other contacts, carefully leaking hints about an alternative ghost art event, an authentic unveiling of the Times' original Times ghost hand, a silent revolution, planned in the heart of the enemy's territory. "Your art still has power, Leo," Clara said, watching him work, her voice a balm to his jangling nerves. "More than you know," Leo nodded, his gaze fixed on the emerging image, a ghost of his past. "I just hope it's enough to protect her," he whispered, a new kind of fear mingling with the old. "And I hope she'll forgive me." He didn't know if he could face the world again, but for Maya, he would face anything. This was not about personal redemption, not really. It was about a father's fierce, unwavering love. They found Maya in the old warehouse, the beam from her homemade projector still painting ethereal scenes on the crumbling walls. She was huddled in a corner, her tablet clutched to her chest, tears silently tracking paths through the smudges of charcoal on her cheeks. Her small shoulders shook with unspoken sobs. The sight tore at Leo's heart. He knelt, his large frame awkward and vulnerable, and extended his hands, his fingers moving slowly, deliberately, in ASL. "I was wrong to ask you to hide," he signed, his own voice choked with emotion. "Your art deserves to be seen, but it needs to be seen on our Time's terms. Together." Maya looked up, her eyes wide and bruised, first at her father's raw, honest expression, then at Clara, who stood quietly nearby, her face a mirror of concern and respect. She saw the genuine care, the shared purpose in their eyes. A fragile hope, a tentative forgiveness, began to stir within her. Her fingers, still smudged with charcoal, moved, hesitant at first, then gaining strength. Asterisk, "my art and your art, together?" Asterisk, she signed, her voice a question of profound longing. Leo nodded, a single tear tracing its way down his weathered cheek. Together. In that moment, the weight of her loneliness lifted, replaced by the warmth of shared purpose. She felt a profound sense of relief, a burgeoning strength. Her father was fighting for her, not against her art. She felt empowered by the idea of showing her art on her own terms, with him, with Clara by her side. The Thorne Gallery was buzzing, a hive of anticipation. The press conference, meticulously orchestrated by Thorne's PR team, was packed. Reporters jostled for position, cameras flashed, and the air crackled with expectation. Thorne, resplendent in a custom-tailored suit, stood at the podium, a smug, self-satisfied grin plastered across his face. He began his speech, a masterclass in calculated rhetoric, painting himself as the visionary discoverer, the benevolent patron. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, his voice resonating with false grandeur, "I present to you the future of art." He paused dramatically, his hand gesturing towards the massive screen behind him, ready to project the surveillance footage of Maya, ready to unveil his discovery. The crowd leaned forward, breathless. But as his hand descended, the screen flickered, a sudden, unexpected glitch in his perfectly managed narrative. Across the street, on the towering, blank wall of an old building, directly opposite the Thorne Gallery's panoramic windows, a different kind of unveiling was about to begin. Dusk was painting the sky in bruised purples and fiery oranges, but then, a brilliant, luminous beam of light pierced the encroaching darkness. A gasp rippled through the street. Then the crowd that had gathered, drawn by whispers and cryptic social media posts, erupted in cheers. It was a massive, intricate digital projection, unfolding with breathtaking clarity. Leo, standing beside Maya, his heart hammering against his ribs, had set it in motion. It was the story of Ghost Hand, his own past, his raw, untamed talent, his agonizing sacrifice, woven into a narrative of loss and rediscovery. The mural evolved, dynamic and fluid, showing abstract forms morphing into urban landscapes, then into familiar figures, a mother's gentle face, a child's outstretched hand, and finally, a vibrant, pulsating butterfly. Maya's digital graffiti elements were seamlessly integrated, her signature luminous style dancing within her father's powerful, grounded strokes. It was a collaborative masterpiece, a living tapestry that told a counter-narrative of genuine art and unwavering family, a defiant challenge to Thorne's commercialism. Maya, standing beside her father, bathed in the glow of their shared creation, felt a surge of power unlike anything she had ever known. Her fingers flew, strong and clear, her entire being radiating expression. An interpreter, a kind woman Clara had arranged, spoke for her to the mesmerized crowd. "My father taught me that art is a voice, even when you have none." Maya signed, her eyes fixed on the soaring butterfly on the wall, a symbol of her own silent flight. "He taught me sacrifice. Now we speak together, for all silent voices." In the crowd, Clara stood with Dr. Khan, a triumphant smile lighting her face. "This is the revolution," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Leo, watching his daughter, felt a profound sense of release. He had found his voice again, not for fame, not for personal glory, but for her. Maya was no longer the mute girl, but a powerful, recognized artist, her silent voice amplified 1,000-fold. The media backlash against Thorne was swift and brutal. The images of Maya, a child with such profound talent and a compelling story, juxtaposed against Thorne's cynical attempt to exploit her, were damning. The story of the true ghost hand, revealed as a father's sacrifice and a daughter's burgeoning artistry, exploded across national news. Thorne, his carefully constructed reputation shattered, was left alone in his crumbling empire, his face a mask of disbelief melting into resignation. The board, panicked by the public outcry, quickly distanced themselves, and Clara, recognized for her integrity and her unwavering ethical stance, was offered a new, independent curatorial position free from the constraints of corporate greed. In the comforting clutter of their apartment, a new kind of art was blooming. Leo worked on a physical mural spanning their living room wall, his hands, once rusty, now moved with confidence and renewed purpose. It was a vibrant tapestry of their shared journey, their story. Maya, her face alight with joy, assisted, her tablet projecting luminous digital elements onto the painting, making it interactive, alive. It was a collaborative piece, a fusion of their two distinct yet profoundly connected styles. The air hummed with creativity and a newfound peace. Clara visited, her arms laden with art supplies and a special invitation. "The city wants to fund a permanent installation of your silent canvas series, Maya," she explained, her voice beaming. "A public art project, on your terms." Maya's eyes, wide with wonder, darted to her father, then back to Clara. "Asterisk. Really? For everyone?" "Asterisk," she signed, her fingers trembling with excitement. Leo's smile was soft, profound. "Thank you," he signed to Clara, "for believing in us, for believing in her." Clara smiled, her hand gently touching his arm. "No, Leo, thank you for showing me what true art and true fatherhood really means." A year later, the city unveiled Maya's silent canvas installation, a series of magnificent, interactive digital projections in a new, vibrant public space. It was golden hour, the late afternoon sun casting long, soft shadows, and a large crowd had gathered, including many deaf children, their faces alight with wonder. Maya, now a confident and articulate ASL advocate, stood before them, a beacon of silent strength. She led a workshop, showing the children how to interact with her projections, how to use their own movements and hand shapes to create their own silent art. Leo stood proudly with Clara, their hands gently intertwined, a comfortable silence flowing between them. The city skyline glowing behind them, a backdrop to their own transformation. The projections flickered onto the children's hands as they signed, creating a beautiful, collaborative, living artwork that pulsed with life and meaning. "She found her voice, didn't she?" Leo whispered to Clara, his voice thick with emotion, a soft smile playing on his lips. "In the most beautiful way." Clara squeezed his hand. "And you found yours again, Leo. You both showed the world that silence can be the most powerful canvas." Maya, turning to the crowd, her fingers flying with practiced grace, addressed them through her interpreter. "Art is not just what you see, it's what you feel, what you share. It's a language for everyone, especially for those who speak without words." As she finished, she projected a final image, a vast, starry sky, boundless and full of promise, with a single, luminous butterfly soaring upwards, a beacon of hope and freedom. Leo watched her, his heart swelling with pride and an enduring love for Maya and for Clara, who had walked beside them, unwavering. He had found a family, a purpose, and a renewed artistic spirit he thought was lost forever. Maya, radiant and confident, her creativity recognized and celebrated, was truly seen, truly heard. Clara watched her vision of art, beautiful and impactful, realized in a way she could only have dreamed. The scene was filled with hope, connection, and the quiet promise of a future where art and family beautifully intertwine, a testament to silent strength and courageous expression. They were not just a father and daughter, but a family, built from fragments of loss and painted with the vibrant hues of shared dreams. They were home.